If I had to learn programming from absolute zero today in 2026, I would ignore 90% of the advice online because most of the people, when they decide to learn coding, the first thing they ask is what is the best course? Is React.js better than Vue.js? Is Python better than JavaScript? These are the wrong questions. The right question is to ask what are the 20% skills that produce 80% of the result. Becoming a great developer isn't about learning everything. It's about identifying those few skills that matter the most and getting ridiculously good at those first. Let me explain. Imagine two beginners. The first one spends 6 months on tutorial. They learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React.js, Node.js, and Docker. Yet, when someone asks them, build a simple expense tracker, they freeze. Now imagine another beginner. They just learn enough HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and then build a tiny project and then build another one and then build another one. Every project teaches them something that they couldn't have learned from another tutorial. 6 months later, the second developer is usually the better developer. Not because they have learned more, but because they have built more. Programming isn't a knowledge problem, it's a feedback problem. Most beginners obsess with framework. Should I learn React.js? Should I move to Svelte? Is Next.js still worth it? But frameworks aren't the bottleneck. Building things is. Nobody gets hurt because they have watched 300 hours of YouTube video. People get hurt because they can solve real problem and build something. The first is developers spend less time consuming content and more time creating. A while ago, I noticed something interesting. Every great developer seems obsessed with what I call the bottleneck skill, the one skill that unlocks everything else. For programming, the bottleneck isn't memorizing syntax. AI can help with syntax. It's not learning every framework either. Frameworks change every few years. The real bottleneck is, can you take an idea and turn it into a working software? Because once you do that, learning another frameworks becomes surprisingly easy. So if I had to start from zero today, here exactly what I would do. Step 1. Learn only enough to build. Not enough to finish an entire course, just enough to create something. A calculator, a to-do app, a notes app. The goal isn't completing courses, the goal is completing projects. Step 2. Reverse engineer people who recently got hired. Most beginners study senior engineers with 15 years of experience. That's like asking an Olympic athlete how to take the first step. Instead, find someone who got their first front-end job in the last year. Look at their GitHub, look at their portfolio, what project they have built, how often did they code. Don't copy their success, copy the path that got them there. Step 3. Create ridiculously fast feedback loop. This is where AI changes the game completely. The old way looked like this. You write code, you get stuck, search Stack Overflow for 1 hour, maybe you find an answer. Today you write code, you hit an error, you ask ChatGPT why it happened, you ask Claude Code to review the code and fix it. Programming is one of the best skills in the world because the feedback is instant. Either your code works or it doesn't. Every bug teaches you something. Thousands of these tiny corrections eventually become experience. Step 4. Stay in the ugly phase. This is where almost everyone quits. Your first React.js app will look terrible, your CSS will be messy, your API will break, your first interview might go badly good. That's supposed to happen. Nobody writes clean code at day one. Experienced developers aren't people who avoided writing bad code. They are people who survived writing bad code long enough to eventually write good code. Here is the biggest lesson I have learned. Technology changes every few years. First, it was jQuery, then React.js, then Next.js. Now AI is changing the game how developer build software. 5 years from now, there will be something else. The developers who succeed aren't the ones who memorize today's framework. They're the ones who became incredibly good at learning. So if you're starting from zero, stop trying to learn everything. Learn enough to build, then build aggressively. Create fast feedback loops. Stay in the ugly phase longer than everyone else. Because once you learn how to learn, every new technology becomes easier than the last one. That's the real superpower.